For years, family dinner was my little slice of heaven. No matter how cold the night was, or how much my knees ached that December, my heart always beat a little faster that day. I would prepare my clothes in advance. I would choose a simple but pretty dress, like someone getting ready to see their loved ones. I would cook something, even though they told me it wasn't necessary. I liked to arrive with my hands full, with sweets, with homemade bread, with a smile ready to hug everyone. It was that time of year when everyone became a child again. My children relaxed, my daughters-in-law laughed together, my grandchildren ran around the house, and I watched them, silent, happy, like a privileged spectator of the miracle I helped to build. I always felt useful, loved, needed, until one year, everything started to feel different. Nothing dramatic, not at first. Small changes, like someone turning off the lights, but very slowly. Calls to organize things were made without me. I found out about things through other people. My recipes were no longer requested. My stories were starting to seem repetitive. But even so, I prepared myself as always, with the same enthusiasm. Because if life has taught me anything, it's that you don't stop loving just because the other person starts to forget. Hope sometimes is the last to give up. If this story is resonating with you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. But that time, my place at the table was no longer reserved, and I didn't know it yet. We tend to think that rejection always comes with shouting, slammed doors, and arguments. But sometimes, the worst way to be pushed away is with silence. That year, I noticed that no one asked me what I was bringing. No one ordered the apple pie they all loved so much. They didn't even ask me the time. I assumed they were busy, that modern life sometimes overwhelms us. I consoled myself with the thought that everything would work out at the last minute, as always. I called my daughter a week before. I asked her if they had everything organized. Her voice was tense, distant. "Yes, Mom. Everything's fine. Almost everything's ready. And what should I bring?" Nothing. It's not necessary this time. We want to keep it simple." That sentence gave me a little knot in my stomach, but I brushed it off. I told her I was fine, to let me know if they needed anything. I said goodbye tenderly, although inside, something wasn't right. The days passed. None of my children called me again. I thought about writing in the family group chat, but something stopped me. Perhaps intuition, or maybe the fear that my suspicion would be confirmed. So I started looking through old photos. Past Christmases, long dinners, my grandchildren in my arms. I tried to convince myself that everything was still the same, that I was still part of that world. But the messages weren't getting through, the calls weren't ringing, and the silence began to grow heavier. One afternoon, I ran into my neighbor. She greeted me warmly and asked if my children were coming that weekend. "I guess so," I replied, lying, because until that moment, I still had a sliver of hope. Part of me refused to accept the obvious. Nobody had told me not to go, but they hadn't told me yes either. And sometimes, omission hurts more than denial. It was just 2 days before dinner when I decided to call my youngest son. He was always warmer, more approachable. I thought that if something was going on, he would tell me more gently. Not so I could blame him, just so I could understand. The phone rang 3 times. She answered in a hurried voice. "Mom, I just got off work. Is everything okay? I won't take up much of your time, son. I just wanted to know if you need me to bring anything for dinner. Nobody has said anything to me." Silence. A silence that was too long for such a simple question. Look, Mom, this year, the dinner will be more intimate." "Intimate?" I repeated, not understanding. "Yes, you know, just the younger ones. With the boys, something more modern, not as big as before." I felt something inside me tear away, like a silent crack opening in the center of my chest. "And I'm not invited?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "It's not that you're not invited, Mom. It's just that, well, we thought you might prefer to rest, that you'd be more comfortable at home." My son's voice was guilty, nervous, like someone who knows he's doing harm, but doesn't want to be responsible. "I understand," I said, and I hung up before I could continue explaining the inexplicable. I sat down in the kitchen, in front of the empty table, with trembling hands. I didn't cry, not yet. I just looked at the tablecloth I'd bought for the occasion. The same one I'd used the last 3 years. It was still folded, waiting for me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt discarded, not forgotten, not rejected, something worse, as if I were no longer part of the landscape, as if the family history had moved on, without me. I put away the tablecloth. I turned off the light, and that night, I slept hugging a pillow, like when I was a child, and I was afraid, because that day, I understood that loneliness doesn't always come when you're alone. Sometimes it arrives when everyone decides you're no longer needed. The night of the dinner arrived. I woke up early, as usual. I cooked something small, more out of habit than hunger. I put down a simple tablecloth, nothing decorated. The house was quiet, and so was I. I had decided not to call anyone, not to ask, not to beg for their presence. If they had chosen not to include me, I would respect their decision, even though it broke my heart. I turned on the television to drown out the echo in the house. Everyone seemed to be celebrating. Laughter, lights, Christmas carols. A stark contrast to my dimly lit little living room. I thought about lighting a candle, just one, as a symbol that I was still there, that even if they extinguished me, I wouldn't disappear. The hours passed slowly, heavily. I looked at the clock. 8 o'clock. The time when we used to all sit together, toast and share stories, waiting for long hugs, the children's laughter, and the group photos that I always offered to take. None of that was happening here. I went to the window. My daughter's house was lit up. From a distance, I could see movement, people coming in, voices, soft music. I saw one of my grandchildren run out into the garden, laughing. I put my hand to my chest, not out of jealousy, nor out of anger, but rather because of a sadness so deep that I didn't know where to put it. Nobody had called. Nobody had asked about me. Not a single message. Not even a, "Are you okay, Mom?" Not even a "Happy Holidays." I was a shadow that night. A vague memory in the minds of those who once promised me eternal love. I lit my candle. I toasted alone. And I whispered to life not to let me become a ghost. Because she was still alive. I could still feel it. And even though nobody saw it, I kept hoping to be part of something. The next morning, the sun streamed through the window, a reminder that the world kept turning. Even though mine felt like it had stopped, I made myself a coffee, slowly, without rushing, like someone who isn't waiting for anyone. And then, the doorbell rang. I was startled. I wasn't expecting visitors. I thought maybe it was the neighbor, or some wrong delivery. When I opened the door, there he was, my eldest grandson, barely 13 years old, with messy hair and big eyes, full of something I didn't understand until he spoke. "Grandma, why didn't you come last night?" It took me a second to reply. He didn't know. Nobody had told him. For him, my absence was as obvious as it was painful. "I thought you were busy, my love," I replied, trying to sound calm. He frowned, like children do when something doesn't make sense to them. "I waited for you. I even asked about you. Mom said you were tired, but I didn't believe it." I felt a lump in my throat. He invited me out without warning. "Let's go for a walk," he said. "I want to show you something." We walked to the neighborhood square. He was carrying a small bag with cookies and juice. We sat on a bench, and there, in the middle of an ordinary day, that boy gave me an impromptu dinner. "I know it's not the same," she said, "but I want to be with you today." And then I cried. No sadness, but relief, because someone, even if only one, had seen me. I had felt like I was missing. I had defended myself without knowing it. His gesture, small and spontaneous, was more powerful than any banquet, because it reminded me that real love doesn't need invitations. All it needs is presence. We sat on that bench for over an hour. He talked about his things, school, his friends, a drawing he wanted to show me. I listened with a mixture of tenderness and amazement. He was so young, and yet so aware. At one point, he pulled out a gift wrapped in plain paper. "This was for you last night," he said. I hid it in my backpack so Mom wouldn't see it. I picked it up carefully, as if it were fragile. I opened it slowly, and inside was a small ceramic figurine, a grandmother holding a child's hand. Underneath, written with a marker, "Thank you for loving me so much." I couldn't hold back the tears. That simple object had more value than any word. "Did you do it?" I asked. He nodded, proud. "I wanted to give you something that no one else has. Because you are unique, Grandma. He hugged me without fear, without haste, and I felt every broken piece of my soul begin to come together again. We walked home slowly. I made him hot chocolate, like when he was little. We put on soft music. We talked about simple but important things, as if that moment was all we needed. And it was, because that night, even though there was no long table or a large toast, I felt more love than at many other dinners. He didn't know all that his gesture had repaired, but I did. It reminded me that I still matter. I haven't disappeared. True love doesn't follow protocols. It's not guided by agendas or the decisions of distracted adults. Love simply arrives. And that day, he knocked on my door in the form of a grandson. That night, after my grandson left, I sat in the living room with the ceramic figure in my hands. I gazed at it for several minutes, in silence, letting everything that had happened that day settle in my chest. I didn't want to call anyone. I didn't need to explain that their absence no longer hurt me as it once did, because in its place, there was something stronger, the certainty that I was still loved, even if only by one soul, and that was enough. The next morning, I received a message from my daughter. "Are you okay, Mom?" I simply replied, "Yes, very well, thank you." I felt no anger, nor any desire to reproach, only a different kind of calm, an emotional maturity that comes when you stop expecting things from those who don't know how to give to you. I placed the figurine on the most visible shelf in the house. I wanted to see her every day, not as a reminder of the pain, but as proof that authentic love doesn't need formal invitations or family permission. My grandson acted from the heart. He was moved by compassion, by truth, by genuine connection. And that is more than many adults manage to do. Sometimes, children see what adults forget, and that gesture of his, so spontaneous, so pure, reminded me who I am, a woman who has given everything for her family, a grandmother who is still standing, a presence that, although they try to silence it, continues to shine in the hearts of those who truly feel it. Because true love doesn't give up. It is not replaced. It only transforms. And it remains. A few months have passed since that night. The ceramic figure remains in the same place, untouched, a silent witness to a moment that changed me. Now I look at it whenever I feel invisible, whenever my children's silence weighs heavily on me, and I smile, not out of resignation, but rather through understanding. I no longer wait for invitations, not because it doesn't hurt, not because I've stopped loving, but because I understood that there are loves that fade without saying goodbye, bonds that cool down without a scandal, and that's also part of living. I learned not to chase tables where they no longer offer me a chair, not to insist on places where affection has to be begged for, and above all, to deeply value those who still see me as the heart of the family, even if it is only one. My grandson still comes every week. Sometimes he brings cookies, other times just school stories, a drawing, or a song he wants to share with me, and every visit is a celebration. A quiet dinner filled with tenderness. In his presence, I found what I thought I had lost. My worth, my place, my voice. And if someone were to ask me today if I miss those big dinners, I would answer, yes, sometimes. But I also know that the true feast is where there is sincerity, gratitude, and unconditional love. And in that child's heart, I found all of that, and more. I always thought that the biggest fear about getting old was illness, dependency, frailty, but not. The real fear is becoming invisible to those who once saw you as their everything. And yet, today I know that even in the midst of indifference, the purest love can blossom. My grandson didn't need instructions. He didn't wait for anyone to tell him how to act. He felt my absence, and he decided it wasn't fair. That simple and courageous act taught me something that my entire life had not shown me, that you don't need a crowd to feel loved, that only one soul is enough, willing to see you. So if you're watching this, and you've ever felt excluded, ignored, discarded, from here, the market, because even in the deepest silence, a voice can appear that restores your senses. And when that happens, you'll realize, like I did, that true love isn't planned. You can feel it, and it shows.